Hey guys, it's been more than a year since I bought this knife. And in that time, I have done more tests for testing purposes with this knife than with any other of my knives. I've done more videos about the tests and conclusions than on any other of my knives. I'm sure if you want to find those videos, you can. And I've sharpened it tens of times. I've gradually reduced the edge angle from what it came with, I think about an 18-19 degrees per side, to what it stands right now, just a bit shy of 12 degrees per side. And I played with a lot of edge finishes. This video is going to be the one about the steel, where I'm going to tell you my personal conclusions about this steel, not stuff that you can find through a Google search like the composition and what the standardized test numbers say, but what I found through my own use. And maybe in the next video I'll talk about the model. Now, as any YouTuber who takes their inspiration on what to buy, tests, and play with from other YouTubers, I've heard a lot of things about S110V. Initially I heard it's super. It's a super steel. And it'll hold its edge, it doesn't rust and everything. And then the people started saying, well, it chips quite easily and it's very difficult to sharpen. So you have to use diamond stones to sharpen it. Nothing else, just the best diamond stones. And whenever I hear stuff like that, I get really curious. So I bought this knife and I started testing it. From what I remember, the initial edge on it was very good. And you could actually do a lot of work with this knife. It wasn't that thick behind the edge, good sharpness, perfect. Then I started sharpening it. Now I did sharpen this knife up to a point on my Worksharp Precision Adjust sharpening system. I used the 320 grit, the 600 and the, I think, 1500 ceramic stone. Now a lot of people say you shouldn't use ceramic stones to sharpen S110V because of carbide tear out. You see the carbides that this steel has, because of its high vanadium content, are harder than ceramics, and the ceramic stone will tear out the carbides, giving you a less than perfect edge. Now I have done that test many times where I've sharpened this on diamond sharpening stones, just diamond sharpening stones, and where I also use ceramics at the end. This was one of them. When I got below 14 degrees per side, I couldn't get my Worksharp to fasten the knife safely and then sharpen below that. So I started hand sharpening it. This is what I do with all my knives. For example, this one, K390. Once I got below 14 degrees per side, I had to go to hand sharpening because it's a lower edge angle. There are probably systems that can do that. Mine can, so I had to move over to hand sharpening. And this was the finishing ceramic stone I used. I also used stones like this, the Veneve, which you should use for a super steel like this because those will cut the carbides. And honestly, in my normal use, I could not tell the difference. I could sharpen the knife to where it would whittle hair. I think I posted a lot of videos about that too. If not, find my TikTok account. It's full of stuff like that. I could get the knife to do the same things from a ceramic stone, finishing ceramic stone, and from a Veneve, just using a straw progression. And in normal use, I couldn't really tell if there was a difference. I'm sure if you would do very precise standardized tests where you cut the same material over and over again and you use the same exact edge, you might be able to tell the difference. And you might want to say, yes, diamond sharpening is better for super steels like this. However, in regular use, I could never tell if there was a difference. If you were to give me a knife that had just a straight up diamond progression sharpening, or something that was sharpened on ceramics, and you can use certain ceramics to sharpen this, even to reprofile this, I wouldn't be able to tell. And you probably won't be able to tell either. And that's why I said, hey, you know what? A lot of people still have a lot of misconceptions about the steel. Another thing which people said, it's difficult to sharpen. More difficult, for example, I've heard this S30V. This is S30V, just an example. I think S30V is a great steel. Spyderco does a great job heat treating it. A lot of people like to say that, well, it's overrated nowadays because for the same price you can get better steels. But Spyderco does such a good job at heat treating them that I honestly do prefer S30V. I have more experience with this and than S35VN or S45VN, but S45VN does sharpen much nicer than S30V. But if you give me an S30V knife, I won't complain about it. How does this sharpen versus this? If you're looking on, like I said, just a regular sharpening system like the Worksharp Precision Adjust, about 50 euros, $50 maybe there, the standard one. Not reprofiling, sharpening an S30V blade and an S110V blade, it's going to take about the same effort up to 1 point. It's that point where you want the knife to whittle hair. And that's where S110V will be slightly more difficult to sharpen. But if you just practice at it, honestly, it takes me the same amount of time to sharpen S110V as it does S30V to get it to whittle hair. By hand, it's the same thing. Now, I do use a lot of diamond stones. This is a DMT. I do enjoy using veneers, but I couldn't get my hand just on just these small veneer dogs. And I have used these to sharpen this knife for a different reason, because people say that when you have these high volume carbide steels, you should put a coarse finish on them. And they will have an edge that lasts longer. However, it really depends on what you're cutting. If what you're cutting is cardboard or a lot of rope or clothing materials, fiber stuff, then yes, maybe a coarse edge finish might be better for you because it will have more aggression. But if you are using your knife to do a lot of push cuts, like I have been doing lately, I've been making a lot of kindling using this knife, then a very refined finish. This is not really mirror polish, but you can see it reflecting very well. This type of finish will be very good for you. I haven't sharpened this knife on stones in more than 6 months. It has been doing a lot of wood processing, making kindling out of pine wood and beech wood for the last 2-3 months. And I was just about to sharpen it. That's how I decided to make this video, because before removing the apex, forming a new apex, give it a full sharpening, I said, let me just test the sharpness. So I did use strops. These are my strops. That's my preferred progression because this is all I could find. 6.3, 1/2 and 1/4 of a micron. Didn't spend much time, maybe a minute, not each in total. And then I wanted to check the sharpness. I was expecting to find some chips. In my previous test, when I actually introduced shock, I used this knife to chop through a thistle. And when I got to the hard parts, I did get it to microchip. So I've been doing a lot of regular cutting, and I was expecting to get some chips. No chips. That was a clean, slow cut. Hope you could hear it. The knife does shave, not perfectly. The bottom part here does it a bit less well than the top part, because that's the main contact area where I make kindling. And I'm sure if I would spend more time with it, I did get the tip to cut a freestanding hair and the very bottom here, but I'm sure I could get it to do that. That's sharpening at a very fine level. But right now what I would like to do is put a fresh edge on it. This is totally acceptable. If you're not an edge freak, somebody who really geeks out on, whittling hair like I do and stuff like that, you can use this knife for months on end with regular everyday use. I used it to make a lot of, like I said, kindling, because now we have a wood stove and I really enjoy doing that. The knife's still sharp. I've used it to cut rope. I've used it to cut some food because I did carry it in my pocket and just pulled it out, cut some plastic packaging, cut some plastic cans and stuff like that. No issues, still sharp. Is there such a thing as fatigue metal that will start wearing down and stuff? I don't think the regular user needs to worry about this. I think if you have even a basic strop, you can sharpen this knife on your Workshop Precision Adjust. That is, like I said, a $50, €50 sharpening system, and strop it on a regular stropping compound, and you'll be fine. You'll have a knife that's sharper than the average person will do. And the benefit of S110V is that it does not take a patina. Now, this is K390. In my opinion, this is really an amazing steel. I've lowered the edge angle on this one also down to about 13-12 degrees per side. It's hard to put a number on it. I have to actually measure it and calculate it. And when you're measuring with calipers and distances are so small, you're bound to make an error. That's why I say about 12-13 degrees per side. This, I know definitely it's under that a hair. It's hard to measure the edge angles, but I took this one down also about 12-13 degrees per side and tried, while cutting into hard pieces of wood with knots, acacia, dried acacia, to twist it. And I didn't get one chip out. And I did introduce shock, as in chopping, and I didn't get one chip out. With this one I did. Is this in any way inferior to other steels? S30V, people say S30V is chippy. Because, well, you know, if you chop with this, it'll get the same chips. Yes, and I would say most steels. So far, this is the only one that I've tested that I couldn't, with normal use. I mean, if you're putting your mind to it, I mean, you can just take a ceramic or a diamond stone and hit it in the corner and get it chip. You can cut through staples and get it to chip. This is not more chippy than any other steel, be it some people like VG10 or S35VN or whatever it is. With normal use, to be honest, I can't tell you if there's a difference between these two steels with normal use. Now, if I'm going to, and I did cut sisal rope with them, I didn't put them on the same edge angle with the same edge finish, but then I did notice K390 was a bit ahead. Maybe it was just the edge finish and I could do the same with this one. If you're looking for those standardized tests, I think Pete over at Cedric and Ada Outdoor has just the best sisal rope cut test. But with normal use, honestly, even a well-sharpened S30V and an S110V, even though the differences are severe, you won't notice. If you're using this in a more specialized area, you know, like you have a knife and you don't like to sharpen it, you just like to, you know, do small touch-up sharpening jobs using your strops, and you do need to do a lot of finer cuts. You don't want it to rust because you use it for your knife for food prep. Definitely. I have put on very coarse edge finishes, like the extra coarse from DMT, and I felt like that was a bit too low. The coarse does a better job. I also have these diafolds here, the blue one, that's the coarse, and just drop that one. And yes, you do get a more aggressive edge. You can get that particular coarse to after you strop it, to not whittle a freestanding hair, but to cut it clean off, because that will be, I would call that the sharper, more aggressive edge. However, if you want to put a high polish edge finish on them, there will be benefits. For doing push cuts, definitely, especially if you're working through wood. It'll glide much easier. Maybe within a few cuts you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but if you do make kindling out of even softer woods, you do 100 cuts, you will be able to tell that mirror, almost mirror polish will glide through the wood much easier, and it'll just feel better in your hand. There's an added benefit to that. Coarse edge finishes like this one, I don't know if you can tell this, these are a bit convex. That helps in what I'm about to tell you, but they are a bit coarser. It's really hazy. I think this is not the extra, but the coarse from DMT and just dropped. You see it's very, very hazy. You can see the scratch pattern. This one, yeah, you see there's also a scratch pattern there, but I've just dropped it to no end. This will slide better out of the cut. So if you're trying to bite into a piece of wood that has a knot and twist, this will slide better. There is some chance that something like this might get caught up due to friction and you might chip it out. If it were in K390, like I said, I never got this to chip, which to me, that's just mind-blowing. But a more refined edge, a more close to mirror polish edge will have that advantage, especially if it's hand sharpened or if you just convex it a bit at the end. It will slide better out of the cut. This is also true for big blades used for chopping. For your axe, that's the best example maybe. If you have a nice convex edge, it will slip out. If you sharpen it, put a V edge on an axe, especially if it's very low, depending on the steel, you might chip that axe. But if you have a nice convex apple seed shape to it, but when you're talking about axes, you're talking about much higher forces than when you're just pushing into something. When you're chopping, that's when you're going to get issues. And if you are cutting steel, going through nails, going through coins like people do for tests, like I did, a steel can, you're going to get chips. There is no steel that does it. People post tests about hitting a knife with a hammer on the edge, and they go through a nail, and then they show it how it cleanly slices through a piece of paper. There are a number of ways you can actually do that. Very, very high edge angle, polish, or depending on that nail, it might be annealed, very soft, and you do have to have very perpendicular forces pushing upon it. But it's not true for any knife. You have to sharpen it a certain way, and then you can do those kinds of acrobatics. I don't think that goes for the regular knife users. If you're a regular knife user and you want a stainless steel that is very stainless, if you want something that can hold its edge for a long time, regardless if you want a very coarse edge finish, toothy, aggressive, or a very fine mirror edge, not as difficult to sharpen as people say it to be, S110V might be for you. Yes, it is going to be more difficult to sharpen than S30V. However, to just get it to this level where it slices paper cleanly and shaves, the effort, like I said, I give this example because that's the one I have, low costs, Work Sharp Precision Adjust. It does an excellent job, and you won't spend a minute more maybe in the beginning. And then if you keep the same edge angle, if you sharpen this to I think about a 15 degrees per side, it comfortably goes on 15 degrees per side on the Work Sharp Precision Adjust, and just sharpen it every other month or 3 months whenever you feel that shaving sharp edge is gone. It'll take you 2 or 3 minutes. I don't think it can take you more once you get the system down. What I did do, yes, I did put a sharpening tool, but that's more about the knife, not about the steel. Personally, I think S110V is great. I don't have another knife in S110V. I have been thinking about it, but the one from Spyderco, this one, maybe I was lucky. Some cases with knives, I'm not that lucky. I get knives which have small things wrong with them, but when it comes to this steel, maybe I just got one that's exceptionally heat treated, but I don't think so. I think it's great steel. And once again, depending on what you use your knife for. If you do a lot of cutting in the ground and hitting stones, cutting on hard surfaces like glass or ceramic, maybe get something that's much easier to sharpen, like VG10. I mean, this is one reason why I like VG10, or something that's much more stainless, like LC200N. This is just a fantastic steel. If you damage this, you can repair it, no issues. It's prone to rolling more than chipping. This is truly prone to chipping more than rolling, but not more than other steels in its class. And for what it is, I think it is very, very well engineered. If you can get your hand on a custom heat-treated S110V blade, like a kitchen knife, if you're that kind of person that likes really fancy kitchen knives, I personally, yeah, I would do it. And if you have one, oh, let me know. I hope this video was helpful. I know it was all over the place, but I wanted to tell you, like I said, my experiences, my thoughts on it, not what somebody else said or what some standardized test said. Those are good, but in regular, everyday use, like I said, you give me the same knife model with different steels and don't let me see which is which. Just in regular use, I probably couldn't tell you the difference between one or the other, unless they're very different and this one was stained. But if you would, like, same thing with 15V and K390 in regular use, not testing for testing reasons where you twist and a cut and abuse that very fine edge, but just regular use, honestly, both are going to hold an edge for a long time. You might notice a small difference between S30V and S110V. If you, for example, if you do the same cuts over and over again, if you're somebody who works with leather and you do the same cuts over and over again and you use this knife just for your leather cutting, when you step up to S110V, you will see an improvement. You won't have to sharpen your knife every week. You'll probably have to sharpen it every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, depending. But just for regular people, honestly, I keep saying this in a lot of my videos, don't stress about it. If you want to test it, go ahead, test it. But don't buy it thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to sharpen, I'm not going to remove the factory edge. Or, oh my God, I'm going to sharpen this and it can go through anything, and then be disappointed by it. It's going to do what every steel does, just that it's going to do certain things a bit better. I hope this helped. If it did, or if you have any questions in addition to what I've mentioned here, let me know, and I'll try to get back to you, well, whenever. My track on answering comments lately hasn't been the best, but maybe I can improve on that. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.